Hello everybody, welcome back. In this class, I am going to discuss about action tags. There are many JSP action tags or elements. Each JSP action tag is used to perform some specific task. And the action tags are used to control the flow between the pages and to use the Java bean. So these action tags are given in JSP to separate the presentation logic and business logic of JSP, and the name is given as standard action because each action has predefined meaning and has a programmer. And as a programmer, it is not possible to change the meaning of the tag. Standard actions are not completely separating the presentation logic with business logic, but partial separation of these two logics is possible. And each standard action follows the XML syntax, and we do not have any equivalent HTML syntax. And the standard actions given by JSP are JSP colon use bean, JSP colon set property, JSP colon get property, JSP colon forward, JSP colon include, JSP colon parent, JSP colon params, JSP colon plugin, and JSP colon fallback. These all are the JSP action tags. Now, if you consider JSP colon use bean. First of all, what is a Java bean? A Java bean is a Java class that should follow the following conventions. It should have a no argument constructor. It should be serializable. It should provide methods to set and get the values of the properties known as getter and setter methods. In JSP, it is possible to separate the presentation logic from its business logic. If you want to separate both presentation logic and business logic in JSPs, then we need to create Java Bean. And we can implement the business logic into Java Bean, and we can call that business logic from a JSP. And the advantage of separating the business logic into Java Bean class is we will get the reusability. It means Java Bean business logic can be called from any JSP or multiple JSPs. In a JSP, if you want to call the business method of Java Bean class, then first we need an object of Java Bean class into JSP. In order to create a Java Bean object in a JSP, we need JSP colon use bean. To say Java class Java Bean, the following rules are required or satisfied. The class must be stored within a package, and the class must be public, and class should implement a serializable interface. And class must contain public default constructor. Class should contain private properties, and each property must contain public setters and getter methods. So the syntax for this use bean is JSP colon use bean, ID equal to object name, class equal to fully qualified class name, and scope equal to scope name. Like so the default scope is taken as page scope. And we have following four types of scopes here: page scope, session scope, request scope, and application scope. When the business logic is separated into Java Bean, the business logic depends on input values submitted to the client. Whenever a client is submitting the input, the JSP will receive the input, and JSP will send or transfer to Java Bean. If a JSP wants to send or transfer input values into Java Bean, then JSP has to call setter methods. And in order to call setter methods, JSP uses JSP colon set property name equal to ID1 and property equal to, for example, username and param equal to u. And why Java Bean itself is not taking input from the browser? A Java Bean cannot receive HTTP request because Java Bean is unknown about HTTP protocol. So Java Bean cannot read input from the browser. Now, what are these advantages of the Java Bean? The Java Bean properties and methods can be exposed to another application. It provides an easiness to reuse the software components. Disadvantages of Java Bean are Java Beans are mutable, so it cannot take advantages of immutable objects. And creating the setter and getter methods for each property separately may lead to the boilerplate code. And next is the okay. JSP. Okay, then JSP get property colon JSP colon get property. This standard action is used for reading value of the Java Bean property into JSP. Whenever this tag is used in JSP, whenever this tag is used in JSP, then getter method of property is called, and it is not possible to read all the properties of Java Bean at a time by calling getter methods. It means we cannot write property equal to star. Always JSP colon get property must be used at outside of JSP colon use bean. Only two attributes are allowed in JSP colon get property. Those are the name and the property. For example, JSP colon get property name equal to ID1 and property equal to username. And next is the JSP colon forward. What is this JSP colon forward? This standard action. Okay. JSP colon forward action tag. This standard action is used to forward a client request from one JSP page to another JSP page. And this standard action internally uses request dispatches forwarding mechanism. While forwarding a client request, the destination resource can be a JSP or a servlet or a HTML page. While forwarding a client request, the source and destination resources must be within the same server. And while forwarding a client request, if destination is a JSP page, then we should pass name of JSP, and if it is servlet, then we should pass URL pattern of the servlet. While forwarding client request, automatically the request will be forwarded, and along with the request parameters, are also forwarded. Along with the request parameters, we can also add the additional parameters while forwarding the request. And this can be done by using JSP colon param tag. While forwarding request from a JSP from a.jsp to b.jsp, automatically username and password are forwarded, and along with that additional parameters called age is also forwarded to b.jsp, and that is using JSP colon param tag. And if we want to pass more than one additional parameter, we should put JSP colon param tag inside JSP colon param tag. That is example JSP colon forward page equal to b.jsp. Inside that JSP colon params. Inside that JSP colon param name equal to age value equal to 10. So we cannot use JSP colon param and JSP colon params tags individually. It means these tags must be used inside other tags. So this is about JSP colon param and params tags. And next is JSP colon. While forwarding a request, if destination resource is available in another web application server, then we should mention or provide the web application name also. And next is the JSP colon include tag. And this standard action is used to include the response of one resource into another resource. One resource into another resource. And in JSP, we have two types of including, that is static including and dynamic including. In JSP, we use include directive for static and include action for dynamic including. Include action internally uses request dispatches including mechanism. And we'll see the differences between include directive and include action. Include directive In include directive, the code of one JSP page is inserted into another JSP, and we call it as compile time or static including. Whereas in include action, the response of one page will be inserted into the another page, and we call it as runtime or dynamic including. In include directive for both source and destination pages, only a single servlet will be generated internally, so number of servlet objects are reduced. Whereas in include action, individual servlets are generated for each JSP, so it increases the number of servlet objects. In include directive, the destination must be JSP page only, whereas in include action, the destination resource can be a JSP page or HTML page. And in JSP include directive, we have both HTML and XML syntax for the tag. Whereas in the include action, we have only XML syntax, but there is no HTML syntax. In include directive, the file must be available within the same web application. Whereas in include action page, the page may be in the same or another web application of the server. Excuse me. Include directive gives more performance than include action, but still we use include action frequently because it can include either from the same web application or other web application also. Whereas while including one resource into another, the control is temporarily shifted from source to destination, and again the control comes back to the source. So it is possible to include multiple destination resources into single source. And while including one resource into another resource, it is possible to add additional parameters, and it is done by using a JSP colon parent tag. Next is the JSP colon plugin tag. This standard action is used for integrating a JSP with a Java bean or a GUI or an applet. And we communicate from JSP with an applet. And when JSP wants to show the response on the browser in the form of GUI. Java beans are of two types, CUI bean and GUI bean. In CUI, we implement some kind of business logic, whereas in GUI, we implement some kind of presentation logic. And GUI beans are now an outdated concept, and we use applets to display GUI presentation on browser. And JSP colon plugin tag is used for integrating from JSP to Java applet. If a JSP is directly displaying the response on a browser, it will be printed in the form of text. But JSP cannot directly display the response in GUI format. If a JSP wants to display the response in GUI format, then the JSP should integrate with an applet using JSP colon plugin tag. If a JSP is unable to contact with applet, then that applet will not be displayed on the browser. It is possible to provide some alternate message on the browser if an applet is not displayed on the browser. And the alternate message is given by using JSP colon fallback tag. While integrating from JSP to applet, if we want to pass any additional parameters also, we can use the JSP colon parent tag. And so this is about the action tags. Hope you understood, and I'll continue in the next class.